Thank you. That was wonderful. Good morning. It's wonderful to see you all here this morning. My name is Magdalene Lindeberg. I'm pleased to be your celebration associate. May we gather today to nurture our connections, seek inspiration, and embrace change. Cultivating compassion is our theme for October. May we help one another extend compassion to those around us and to ourselves, even when events might push us toward numbness and retreat. If you are new or visiting for the first time, I invite you to stop by the welcome table in the parlor after the service. That's right through these doors, and this is where we also have coffee and snacks and conversation after the service. We have many activities this week. I invite you to read the announcements on the screens, also linked in your order of service. I'll mention that we have a Care Cafe with Reverend Peaches today at 12 o'clock in the library. And then there are two special announcements. The first from Jane Kessler, who is dressed for the occasion.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Jane Kessler, and I was supposed to give this announcement last week. But let me tell you about parking in Ithaca. Especially during the Apple Festival. Well, never mind that. If you haven't heard, I'm here to tell you that we're bringing the live service auction back. And we've chosen a theme of fun times together. This longtime event is a favorite of mine and many others. For the first time since COVID, we're planning a full evening at FUSIT on Saturday, October 25th. There will be dinner in the annex, desserts in the parlor, and lively bidding, we hope, in the sanctuary. Our focus is building community and connecting members of our congregation in addition to raising funds. We need lots of volunteers to pull this off later in the month, but today I'm asking for a different kind of help. I'd like you to donate an item or service for the auction. Making a donation is easy. You can do it online on a Google form, or you can email me, or you can come and do it in person today in the parlor. What kinds of service could you perform? Well, my husband and I enjoy hosting a brunch, and we do a summer farm-to-table dinner. I look at my calendar to choose a date, consider my capacity, and write a short description. Since my husband is a huge vegetable gardener, we've also offered bags of produce from our garden. If you need any inspiration, we've got lots of old catalogs for you to look at. We've also put ideas online for you to peruse. Please come check out the auction table after the service or fill out a donation form online. But please do it today. Your donations will make our fun times together possible. Thank you.
And we have a second announcement from Matt Hare, who also is festively dressed.
Good morning. My name is Matt Hare, and as the purple hat implies, I'm speaking to you this morning as chair of the Stewardship Committee. I have three messages for you today: some good news, some not so good news, and some sweetener to help you feel empowered to be a part of the solution. So first, I want to thank everyone who pledged financial support for FUSIT during this past spring. 54% of households increased their pledge relative to the prior year. That's huge. And we received first-time pledges from 15 households. Our total pledge revenue is $334,000, which was $14,000 more than we had been able to accomplish the previous year. I consider that a huge success. So my second message, all of you. My second message is more sobering. Several important financial realities still must be addressed. Our treasurer, Don Barber, thank you very much, Don, has explained our current FUSIT finances in the last 6 weekly email announcements. In short, we need a total of $37,000 of additional revenue to balance this year's budget. We still have a skewed distribution of pledge amounts. At the high end of that distribution, some longtime pledgers have recently moved away or passed on. At the low end of that distribution, 42% of our members and friends have no recent history of pledging. First-time pledgers are not expected to necessarily give a large pledge, but that doesn't mean that they are not important pledges. Teams are hard at work, as we've heard, developing revenue streams other than pledging, such as service auction and more rentals of our space. However, stewardship needs to be part of the solution, and our target is this month to raise $20,000. Now here's the sweetener. Several members have pledged to match any gifts made this October up to a total of $10,000. That means that gifts that you make this month will be doubled, but only if you make a gift. We will not receive these matching funds unless we are successful rising to the challenge. So don't miss this opportunity to double your gift and help our beloved community raise the $20,000 we need to close the gap. You can start today by visiting the stewardship table out in the parlor during coffee hour. Hope to see you there.
Thank you, Jane and Matt. In the spirit of intentionally gathering together in community, let's all take a moment to turn off our cell phones and then take a moment to greet those around you. Our chalice will be lit this morning by Stu Fegley. Please join me in reading the chalice lighting words. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. not of the same blood or birth, but of the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness. Nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are obstructions. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 170 AD.
If there are young people who would like to come down and take a basket for our Side with Love collection, and we will now sing. You can rise in body or in spirit to join us in hymn 346, Come Sing a Song with Me.
Good morning, everybody. It is always my pleasure to be here with you guys. It is the time when I'd like to invite all my young friends or people who feel young at heart to come join me on the steps for a time for wonder. Whoa, that was a pretty epic slide. You never did? You were actually on my list to open up the Wonder Box because last time I saw you, I promised that I would let you open it up. I think 57, no, 67. 67. Here, do you want to open it up? Ready? What's in there? Two little things. You're gonna do that one? Can we give the other one to a friend? Okay, so our gray ears are going to represent a mouse, and our, let's say, I don't know, orange ears are going to represent a lion. What could a lion and a mouse do together? Eat each other. Maybe, I think the eating might only go one way. Probably. Anything else? Do you think mice and lions could like be friends or something? Do you remember this story?
I'd rather eat a lion. In the story, I heard a mouse saved a lion.
Oh, in a story, you heard about a mouse saving a lion. I think you might have heard this story before, but we're going to tell it anyway. Can anyone tell me what this month's theme is? It's already said. Did you remember what they said? What is the theme for this month? Cultivating compassion. Cultivating compassion. So we're going to listen to a story that allows us to cultivate compassion through the value of transformation. Okay? Bear with me here. All right. A lion lay in the forest. His great head was resting on his paws. A timid little mouse came upon him unexpectedly, and in her fright and haste, she ran away right over the lion's nose. Of course, the lion, quite frustrated that the little mouse ran over his nose, reached his giant paw out and snatched up that mouse. Yeah, I see a lot of these faces. So the mouse understandably said, "Please, please spare me. Please, big lion, spare me today." And the lion laughed at the mouse and its plead for its life. Just laughed. But the lion was feeling quite content, possibly full, and decided to let the mouse go. So the mouse turned around and said, "Oh, thank you, lion. One day I will repay you for sparing my life." Some time went by, and the lion was, let's say, on a walk out in the wilderness.
No, he was hunting, right?
Maybe hunting. He was on a walk, and he stumbled upon a trap. He got trapped up in this big rope, and he couldn't get out, so he let out a giant roar. Can you all stand up and give me the biggest roar ever? Like, I want to hear a scared, big roar. And I'll do it with you. Ready? Guys, ready? Take a deep breath. Let it out. Roar! The mouse heard the roar from miles away, and it scurried so fast, and it came upon the lion. And what do you think the mouse did? He chewed the rope. He chewed the rope and let the big lion out of the trap. What do you think this tells us? What are we learning from this? Little friends can help big friends. Okay, little friends here, can you tell me, has anyone ever thought that because you were small and young, that you couldn't help them, even though you believed in your heart that you could? Has that ever happened to you? No responses. No, of course not. Well, that's happened to me because I'm still quite short as an adult. And people think I can't reach things on high shelves, which usually I can't unless I have a step stool. So I'm pretty good at figuring it out, even though I'm short. Okay, little friends, we're gonna head upstairs. Before we go, though, I would like to announce to all of you that I desperately need a nursery volunteer today due to one of our volunteers being sick. So if anyone is background checked and would like to volunteer in the nursery today, please meet me out in the parlor and we can figure that out, okay? We're gonna sing our children out with "Where You Go," which can be found on the screens behind me. And children, you may stand up. It is a classroom Sunday. We're going to meet our teachers in the hallway, and we're going to stay nice and quiet like that teeny tiny mouse.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people
Good morning. A few weeks ago, Dave Solomon presented a sermon on the architecture of our beautiful sanctuary. It was really interesting. Today, I have 90 seconds to talk about the acoustics. I have an acoustical problem in here. I can hear vocal music, instrumental music, perfectly well. When Emily Richards or Reverend Peaches present a sermon speaking to the congregation, I can hear everything pretty well. When Emily is talking to the children, she speaks more quickly and more like the children, or more accurately, more like my teenage grandkids, whom I can't understand at all if they're talking together. They kind of slow down when they talk to me. Well, there's good news. Our excellent building and grounds team solved my problem a couple of years ago, and maybe this will help some of you. They installed telecoil, or T-coil. Simply put, T-coil doesn't like bouncing off that microphone. Simply put, T-coil broadcasts directly to many brands of hearing aids, like my Costco hearing aids, or to this special T-coil headset available in the parlor. In Europe, the building codes require T-coil in most public buildings. According to my artificial intelligence question earlier this week, Cornell has T-coil in over 200 lecture halls and conference rooms. Well, we have it here too, and it allows me to adjust the volume either on my smartphone, which talks to my hearing aids, or on this little control unit. So if part of the service comes that is not quite as intelligible as I like, I can turn that up. And it doesn't block the ambient sound as well. So T-coil acoustics aren't really high fidelity, but the high fidelity part's coming in as well. Voila! My hearing problems in our sanctuary are solved, and my 90 minutes are up. As some of you know, I love technology, and I'd be glad to talk for 10 minutes about that, but the big hook comes out. If you have any questions, see me after church over coffee, and be glad to explain anything, but you can really hear everything. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Miller, and I'm here to do Joys and Sorrows this morning. But since this is the first Sunday of the month, I want to tell you, particularly for newcomers, and remind long-term members of how you can submit a joy or sorrow. You can send it in an email, joysandsorrows@uuithaca.org, before Sunday morning to get to me, or to get to us before 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. Or before the service, you can fill out one of these cards, either in the basket, or there are some in the pews, but put them in the basket, and those of us who do Joys and Sorrows will pick them up. If you have any questions about what's appropriate to submit in a joy and sorrow, come see me. I'll be at the care team table, or any of us that do Joys and Sorrows can speak with people about that. In a spirit of reverence, love, and care, we take time now to bear witness to some of the joys and sorrows of our community, to share those events that call for our prayers and support, our praise and celebration. From Nancy and Rich Dolge. Sadly, Rich's brother Grant passed away unexpectedly on Wednesday, September 24th. He left behind lots of wonderful memories and cherished artwork for us to hold close to our grieving hearts. Our hearts go out to his loving wife and family. We know you will rest in peace, Grant. From Sarah Catterall, team leader of the Buildings and Grounds team, thank you to everyone who turned out for Restoration Day this beautiful sunny morning. Sarah and Simon Catterall, Brenda Golden, Mary Paul Kirkpatrick, Dick Kurtz, Judy Jones, Magdalene Lindenberg, Keith Perry, Madonna Stallman, and Michelle Waffner made short work of the to-do list. Beds weeded, bricks laid, the drain by the preschool play yard cleared, masses of ivy pulled off the annex's back wall. Thanks to all of you and to Sarah, who organizes all the wonderful things seen and unseen that the Buildings and Grounds do. From Fred Balfour, the Balfour family has had some health issues over the past 6 months. We're pleased to report either stable or improving conditions. Our adult daughter, Nora, diagnosed with bladder cancer earlier this year, is at the least advanced level. She is on immunotherapy treatment at Upstate. A good outcome is predicted with a high probability of a normal lifespan. Sharon's walking limitations means that she continues to use a walker or cane. Her gym exercise and water Zumba keep her active and flexible. Fred had an AFib occurrence in June that has not recurred. He continues daily blood thinners, but he has no need for a pacemaker. He bought an Apple Watch for its heart monitoring capabilities. Thanks for all the good wishes, he says, the good wishes, smiles, hugs, and support over the past 9 months. So we're happy for the Balfour family that things are better. A late one from Carol Whitlow. Jane Goodall, a brave and courageous leader and friend to all living creatures, passed on this past week. Through her deep compassion, theme for the month, she showed us that all creatures have a place in the choir. Some told her she was not a true scientist and didn't allow for her ideas because she was a woman, but she believed deeply that everything on earth has a purpose and a community and lessons to teach those of us who listen with our heart and use our brains wisely. I offer a joy that she shared her life with us and a sorrow that she is no longer with us. For those we are holding in our thoughts, in our hearts, and perhaps in our prayers, into this community and into this space of healing and hope, let us call these names out loud. For those we are holding silently in our hearts, let us take a moment of silence. We extend loving kindness to all in our world, and let us remember to extend loving kindness to ourselves. Today, tomorrow, and beyond, let our hands be outstretched in kindness, and let us strive to keep showing up to our lives and to each other with an open heart, love, and courage to us all. Blessed be, and amen.
So we have meditation for breathing, which is in the teal book, if you wanted to follow along with that, number 1009, and feel free to sing whichever part speaks to you. When I breathe in, I breathe out peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out peace. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out love. If you wanted to try, you could go breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. Giving to the plate is important. It's a symbol of our gratitude for this service and our ongoing commitment to support the work of this church. If you're watching remotely, follow the instructions on the screen. If you're attending in person, our ushers will now pass the plate. Please join me in saying the offertory words. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond.
Good morning, everyone. I was rereading the title of the sermon just because it still continues to resonate with me when I thought of it, holding on to compassion in a world of this fast-paced virtual connections with everyone. And I think that it has taken a toll on how we see ourselves in terms of our virtues and in terms of our morals and in terms of our compassion itself. And so I'm glad that it came up. And compassion seems to be a prevalent subject all around. It keeps coming up on and off. And I think it's just a response to the intensity of what's going on in the world, the hate that we're seeing so much more clearly and that we're actually hearing more vocally out in public. The wars that are going on, the brutality, the cruelty. At what point do we come to feel what other people feel enough to stop torturing each other? And it concerns me. And it concerns me not only in places that are not here, places that are far away from here, but it concerns me in our own neighborhoods and communities. I was asked to speak at the 14th Dalai Lama Learning Center on the topic of compassion, cultivating compassion in a secular interfaith conference. And I also wanted to talk about compassion in action, which is part of what they're focusing on. I was required to write a description about what I wanted to talk about, and of course they didn't give me any parameters, so I just went crazy writing. And I'd like to read that to begin. When I contemplate compassion, I envision a river, moving, cooling, resting between the banks of the earth. Just how our compassion dwells within the depths of our hearts and souls. It is a natural part of who we are, meant to quench the thirst, to wash clean all it touches, to nourish and provide life. But I worry sometimes. Our rivers of compassion from becoming contaminated in a world of obsessive busyness that does not allow us to look deeply into others, a world of quick responses and slogans. How do we prevent the natural depth of compassion from being replaced by superficial politeness and shallow performative acts of kindness? This challenge is very real. In our rush to respond, to be seen as caring, to checklist our virtues, we risk losing the very essence of what makes compassion authentically healing. True compassion requires time to flow, space to breathe, and the courage to stand balanced on the edges of our love, even when it's uncomfortable. Perhaps the answer lies in returning to the source, in protecting the springs of genuine care that rise up from our deepest selves before they are filtered through the demands and speed of performance. We must guard the purity of our intentions and allow our compassion to flow at its own natural pace, flow deeply and clearly. The concept of compassion, in my experience up here in Ithaca, came up during that summer some of you know about, where my grandsons were insulted by a grown man and his grown son and his child at the new splash pad in Stewart Park And, the children were doing what children do, which is to go completely nuts when they have the opportunity. And I'm all for that. And of course, people accidentally get splashed, and that's what happened to this man's younger son, who was about 5 or 6. And the man came over and called my grandsons the N-word and told them to go back to where they came from and that they had no place here. That sounds like the most shocking part of the story, but it wasn't. The most shocking part of the story was that there were hundreds of people there, and not one person said a word in their defense. So my question was, where was compassion then? The compassion that we spend so much time speaking of. When I asked what makes it difficult, because I called a community meeting, and asked what made it very difficult to speak up in their defense or to say something to their offender, 2 things came up. One of them was fear of what this person might do. But the more prevalent thing that came up was I didn't want to seem like I wasn't nice. Could you imagine that? That the appearance of being nice, or the display of niceness, became more important than to protecting these children, or at least coming to get me, who was sitting away from the situation. And that really floored me and disappointed me and made me angry. A more recent experience revolved around 2 people that were my closest friends for many years up here in Ithaca. And the concept of calling in versus calling out had been kind of rumbling around in books and things like that, and was attached to lacking compassion if you use the expression calling people out. Well, I call people out, and there are times when I call people in, but I'm certainly not restricted to one or the other. One of these 2 people, one is very quiet and one of them is more vocal, and this particular person has a tendency to speak in constant terms of superiority over others, class superiority, race superiority, even species superiority, just constant stream of who is less than they are, who doesn't know as much as they do, who's not as smart, who's not as educated, black people do this, and the Latinos do this, and this is constant, and these are people who consider themselves highly spiritual and moral. And I'm friends with them, and so you can imagine what I'm listening to constantly and trying to deflect in the ways that I can, until it got very tense, the relationship. And it shifted. She lives in a family that spiritually and religiously believes that you don't confront anybody, no matter what. So she has this world where everybody's beyond reproach. So anything that's said sounds extreme and criticizing. And so my personality bumps into their personalities where I am disturbed by silence. I am disturbed by racism. I'm disturbed by classism. I'm disturbed by anything that sets us apart in a way that makes us think that somebody is less than who we are, and I will not be silent. I was raised where I witnessed too much harm on the basis of these things, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I'm not indifferent. I'm thankful that it doesn't fly by me, having no impact on my senses. I grew up understanding compassion very differently from what people look at as politeness and kindness. I would address her comments using very different methods. Sometimes I was just slightly, sarcastic. I tried to be funny. Sometimes I was direct about what she had said, trying to challenge her misperceptions and how hurtful they are. But she could not hear it as anything else other than my just criticizing her. And so the message got lost in the emotions. Our friendship became strained eventually, and we had a conversation, pointedly that she wanted to have a conversation about this calling in and calling out. And I asked her, how should I respond to your racism and your classism that would make you listen, that would make you understand how harmful those things are? The conversation did not go well because there was no way that she can see that I had any right to challenge or correct or ask her to rethink things that made her feel okay. And so out of her adherence to the idea of calling in versus calling out, she kind of banished me from her life, ironically. I had to write a piece at some point for All Eyes and Ears on Racism about the concept of calling in versus calling out, because it came up again when I held a workshop. The people in the group asked me to hold a workshop to teach them how to speak up against these things, because they just needed to hear that. I myself was baffled, just because I don't think that I am not sure if any person of color in this country ever has to ask that question about how you stand up against racism. So I wrote a piece called Calling In versus Calling Out. I did a little bit of research, and I just want to read you what I wrote. For the past months, particularly in relation to how to speak out against racism, I've had ongoing conversations about the highly promoted conflict resolution method of calling in versus calling out. What I find that those who are now dedicated to this one way of addressing conflict have not come to examine the ineffectiveness as a solution to human interactions outside of privileged and controlled environments, lacking consistent consciousness about the power fault on which people of color stand in a country with an enduring history of racism and racist violence. The calling in versus calling out oversimplifies and damages in general, for it undermines and ignores the layers of complexities that are part of the human interaction. It disacknowledges the multifaceted nature of most conflicts. Real disagreements rarely fit neatly into categories that can be resolved through predetermined communication strategies. Additionally, the idea sets up a moral, divisive, philosophical structure, heavily insinuating that those who use the calling in strategy are ethically superior than those who call out. Often the concept of calling in becomes a controversial smokescreen, redirecting and addressing the seriousness of social issues like color and class discrimination onto the tone and wording of the messenger, rather than remaining on the primary discussion of accountability for harboring and spreading stereotypes and the narratives that perpetuate them. The conversation often gets rooted down in a methodological rabbit hole. A few of the small disturbing results of the calling in trend are these. The focus becomes the strategy as opposed to the accountability. It further promotes fragility in that any feedback that is not delivered in a precise and gentle way can be justifiably rejected. Style becomes an escape hatch over conscientiousness. It enables social capital for those who may have what is considered greater communication skills or cultural literacy. It allows anyone to dismiss valid criticisms because they experience discomfort with the presenter's manner. It implies that discomfort is always objective and cannot be used to manipulate. It ends up being another way to disempower the voices of the marginalized. It limits room for authentic emotional responses. Calling in as a static formula limits our ability to listen to relevant information, relevant opinions, corrections, or challenges from others. It gives us permission to shut down what could be useful to our social and personal development, what could enhance and further develop our compassion for other people. Compassion is not just about feeling sorry for people experiencing war. It goes much deeper than that. It has given the adherents a way out of any behavior or thought or prejudice, since they can claim that the message was not delivered compassionately. Rather than listening ourselves, fastening ourselves to rigid formulas for how disagreement should be handled, we might benefit from developing more discerning, sophisticated approaches to conflict that consider context, power dynamics, and the nature of the issue at stake. In our effort to find quick fixes and solutions that come in the form of slogans, in our fast-paced culture of not standing still enough to listen or standing still enough to examine ourselves and examine the pieces that create a world of war and a world that lacks compassion, we'd rather argue about who does it well and who does not do it well, taking us right back to the beginning of what we were trying to change. Sometimes privacy is a way of dealing with those things, but sometimes it's not. In private, we can pretend something never happened. If someone asked us, how did the conversation go, we can tell them any story we want. If we are allowed to make public comments that demean others and unravel their sense of self-esteem and purpose, then why is it that the person who addresses it has to pull us to the side privately and speak to us when we did what we did publicly? And I'm not saying that as a retaliation. I'm saying that as what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We can't hold somebody else to a higher standard than we hold ourselves. The goal should be not to perfect our communication techniques, but to remain genuinely open to correction and challenge, regardless of how it arrives, even if we have to step back from it, even if we have to steep in our anger for a minute, but to go back again and say, what did I really just hear? Why did that person say that to me? What damage do I cause by putting out those kind of disparaging remarks and comments, or even believing them myself? What have I left unexamined in my own sense of morality and ethics? We have to develop a resilience. The idea of everything needing to be designed for our comfort makes us not resilient. Because anything that feels uncomfortable, no matter how big or small, becomes the enemy, and we can shut down from it or run away from it. True accountability means being willing to hear difficult truths even when they are wrapped in somebody else's frustration, anger, or imperfect language. We have to quiet ourselves sometimes and just listen. Most of us know when we've made that mistake. Most of us, as we're speaking, as we're saying stereotyping things or disparaging things about another, in the middle of it, you sometimes catch yourself. But if you're the kind of person who always needs a safe face, you dig your heels in, and you will not admit what happened. If you want to have relationships with people who are marginalized, you are required to do something more. You are required to be as sensitive and caring about those people as you would to anyone that you had an encounter with. You are required, in my mind, whether that person is there or not, to protect that person from those sorts of harms. And I believe that. And I raised my child to believe that. I think I once told you that when I was growing up, life was very difficult. We were constantly confronted with racism. And I remember having an older brother who was so angry at the white world that he easily referred to white people as white trash. People who were not necessarily educated or poor, whatever it was that he saw that deemed them that way. And I remember being younger than he was and saying, you can't talk about people like that. People are never trash. Never. And you can't do that. Whether they hear you or they don't, you're putting that out in the world. You may be influencing people who are on the edge of struggling with their prejudices, and now you just encourage them that it might be okay. That's why you don't put that sort of thing out. The other night I was at dinner with a friend and his family member. He's a family member of the two people who kind of banished me from their lives. But he asked me to speak a little more about how I saw compassion. We were sidetracked by his children who were, they're older boys running around on skateboards in the house and listening to music. But I wrote him a letter, and I'll read that. I wanted to respond to your question, I said, and understand how we did not, and I understand how we didn't get to it last night. But I wonder if this message or a passage I wrote that I'm writing in a book called Contemplations of a Chaplain might help you understand. It's called The Full Scope of Compassion. If compassion means identifying with those who suffer and working to ease their pain, then confronting harmful ideas that cause heartache is in itself an act of compassion. And know this much: no tone of voice feels comfortable to anyone who doesn't want to hear the message. Only through human flaws, manipulation, and spiritual shallowness can we cast those who honestly point out damaging thoughts or behaviors as lacking compassion, being too critical, creating barriers. What lacks compassion is ignoring the harm others inflict through their words and actions, whether in the presence of those they harm or not. Our silence easily translates into consent. Our inability to be corrected paves a path for the impurities of our heart and the dominating character of our egos to lead us to believe that we are beyond reproach. We oversimplify compassion when we choose the path of least resistance, when we embrace philosophies that don't require us to engage our spiritual intellect and our moral reasoning, or sacrifice the image of how we want to be seen for who we want to appear to be. Passivity that protects our mental comfort is ultimately an act of selflessness, not godliness. Compassion takes many forms in spiritual practices, sometimes as unwavering discipline, other times as tender encouragement. To restrict compassion to one way or the other misses the full scope of what spiritually encompasses the true compassion. I think about the ways in which people suffer under despotic regimes, the countless struggle to survive, to hold on to hope, to physically endure bodily harm, to mentally navigate despair and loss of self-worth, to carry on through exhaustion. Then I think about the positions of relative ease, financial soundness, and well-protected that most feel from discomfort, who sit in narrow worlds and analyze others about how they should engage with their assailants, using pop-up phrases like, "Joy is our resilience." Call others in and not out. Look for the gems in others. Always treat people more kindly than they deserve. Kindness is the language of the deaf. Catchphrases are unexamined because they presuppose that everyone responds to kindness and reason in the same way. The rational and the experienced know that that is not true. If you have ever come up against a dedicated racist, if you've ever lived in a country where people are trying to kill you, no amount of pleading or kind words or niceties or politeness will shift them out of their thoughts. We must think that way too. If we want to talk about compassion as a universal virtue, then we must think outside of our cozy boxes. It is like saying that you can't believe that somebody stole when they live in a country where they're being starved to death. Are these kinds of compassionate platitudes the ones that you use when a government is deliberately starving your children, sexually abusing your women, murdering your families? Should they be used when your own country deems you as less than second class because of your skin color, your economic standing, your education level, your designation as a foreigner who needs to go back to where they came from? Those who stand and have stolen the very land that you live on? This is a conversation that spiritual friends and spiritual communities need to have in order to rebuild trust in faith traditions. Understanding and perspective is crucial in order to rebuild our trust in our communities, not to open doors to hate for our enemies, but to support the survival needs of those who suffer, reminding them that how they survive under the harshness of their attacker is not the completion of who they are. Also, these conversations can be an opportunity for the moral and privileged to ask forgiveness for their lack of humility. Thank you for the dinner. I hope your search for college for your sons went well. If we consider those living under oppressive regimes, their daily struggle not just to survive physically, but to preserve hope amid systematic brutality, to maintain self-worth when the world denies your humanity, to push through bone-deep exhaustion, where rest is a privilege that you can't afford, then we might think of compassion differently, more fully, and not as simple acts of kindness, but in a deep understanding. Now consider those insulated by comfort and financially secured, removed from immediate suffering, who offer advice to from their protected vantage points. They dispense platitudes. These aphorisms rest on false assumptions that everyone responds the same and that everyone's survival is the same. When we use these gentle maxims in these situations, they become useless and pointless, and they don't appear as compassion at all. The privileged mistake their comfort for wisdom. They confuse the luxury of choosing kindness with the necessity of survival. Their narrow worlds have never required them to understand that sometimes resistance cannot be polite, that dignity sometimes demands confrontation, and that those fighting for their lives don't owe their oppressors understanding. All that I said here is simply food for thought. I'll end by saying, don't limit your ability to go deeper in your love for one another, fearing how we might appear. Find courage to do what is right out of our care for the world and for others. Have mercy on those who create destruction, but do not lend them excuses. Peace will not come as long as we continue to create and ignore the suffering of others. Be truly compassionate and work toward easing the pain of others by restoring what fulfills the needs of everyone. Thank you.
Please rise or embody your spirit for our closing hymn, Immortal Love.
And before I forget to say something, I just wanted to say thank you to Jacob Sponson for being here and playing such beautiful Bach this morning. Yeah, thank you. I did not bring my page over. Here we go. Immortal love forever full, forever flowing free, forever shared.
please consider gently closing your eyes to better receive this very simple message from Emily Dickinson. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our service has ended. Let our true service now begin. Go in peace.